Mic test. We'll now begin this meeting for the Santa Cruz County Regional Transportation Commission for Thursday, February 6, 2025 at 9:03. Can we take roll call?
Commissioner Peterson,
Here.
Commissioner Keeley, Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Hernandez,
Present.
Commission Alternate Schifrin.
He's here, he's in the back.
He's in the back. Commissioner DeSerpa,
Present.
Commissioner Koenig,
Here.
Commissioner Martinez,
Present.
Commissioner Rotkin,
Here.
Commissioner Eads. And give me 1 second. I think we may have Commissioner Quiroz Carter on. She's not jumped on just yet, but she might join us via Zoom.
So next we'll see if we consider AB 2449 Just Cause and Emergency Circumstances requests.
Not have any AB 2449, but again, Commissioner Quiroz Carter may be joining us via Zoom using the regular Brown Act.
Okay, if you can notify us when she's online. Moving on to number 3, additions or deletions to the agendas.
We posted to the RTC website the handout for item 7 and replacement pages for items 16 and 27.
Thank you. Now, this is the time for public comment for oral communications. Any member of the public wishing to address the commission on any item within the jurisdiction of the commission that is not on the agenda. Anyone in the public? There's a button on the side.
It is, okay. Whoa. Stand back now. My name is Frank Ted Remedy, Ted nickname. I live in the Inner Laken area, in the vicinity of the fairground. And I travel an area where bicycles have become bicyclists have popularized the roads there. But quite frankly, most of them are inadequate for bicycle travel next to the roadway where the cars are. And unfortunately, there's been some injuries and actual death in that vicinity because of that. It's occurred to me that the 2-lane roads probably have a 40-foot right-of-way, 20 foot from the middle line. And it also occurred to me that many of those areas where their problems occur with the conflict between bicycles and automobiles, that 40-foot is being encroached by land, in some instances trees, but mostly it's just bare land that hasn't been widened to the extent that it could be. So my suggestion this morning is that a study be undertaken to determine where there is a conflict between the prospect of bicycle trail and roadway, and in effect retake the right-of-way where it can be. That means excavation, means a long-term project. But I think it needs to be taken. And secondly, and I would propose this to the Bicycle Commission, and that is that roadways be graded according to their travelability. Now, yesterday I was traveling on Lakeview, and because there is no bike lane,
Thank you, sir.
An area for bicycles.
The time is up. Can you please mention the road that you were referring to as well?
Okay, well, that's my summary. It's just study the possibility of getting the right-of-way that the county already owns. Thank you.
What road is it you're referring to for the record? What's the name of the road?
What's my name?
No, the name of the road that you're referring to.
My hearing is not very good, I'm saying.
What's the name of the road you're referring to? The road you're talking about.
Can you help me? It isn't one road, it's Lakin is an example.
Okay,
But
Lakin.
I'm just saying, all over the county, there's encroachment on the right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Seeing that there's no other people here for public comment, we'll see online.
Michael Saint?
I already paid attention when the big light comes on. I'm like,
Mr. Saint?
at the counter.
Thank you, Chair Hernandez, Michael St., Aptos resident and member of CFST. Myself, as well as CFST, would like to extend its condolences to the family and friends of Dr. Quinn. Dr. Quinn was definitely an asset to the RTC, although we were not of like mind in certain areas of transportation. Dr. Quinn offered calm and well thought out answers as well as questions to the issues at the time. He will definitely be missed. On a much lighter note, I would like to welcome my new District 2 Supervisor, Kim DeSerpa. I'm sure Supervisor DeSerpa realizes she is now representative of all District 2 citizens. Although we may not agree on aspects of transportation, I hope Supervisor DeSerpa will keep an open mind, bring fresh ideas, and possibly question some of the direction the RTC is going with some of their projects. Hoping that Supervisor DeSerpa sees the importance of a robust mass transit system here in Santa Cruz County, whatever form that may take. Thank you for your time.
There are no other speakers online.
Thank you. We'll bring it back for consent agenda. Is there any commissioners that want to remove any items from the consent? Seeing none, we'll take it to the public. Any public comment on the consent agenda? Seeing none, any online?
We do not have any online.
I'll bring it back to the
Approval
board.
of the consent agenda.
We got a motion from Rotkin and a second from Schifrin. Do we do roll call or just all those in favor? All those in favor? Aye. None opposed? Unanimous? Oh. Next, we'll move on to the regular agenda. Commissioner reports, oral reports. Should I start on the right of me with Commissioner Schifrin? Commissioner Peter? Oh, Commissioner Keeley, Mayor Keeley.
All good, thank you.
None.
Commissioner Calatari? Johnson? None? Seeing there's none, we'll move on to the director's report.
Hello, good morning, Commissioners, and Happy New Year. Just want to give a warm welcome to some new faces we have on our commission. Welcome appointee Fred Keeley from Santa Cruz. We also have a new appointee from Scotts Valley, Steve Clark, who is unavailable to be with us today. So we have another familiar face, Jenny Johnson, who's serving as his alternate. And welcome to Kim DeSerpa, Supervisor for District 2, as well as Monica Martinez, Supervisor for District 5. So welcome. It's going to be a great year. We're really excited to have you here. My report today, I have a little bit of a longer one than normal, but there's been a lot going on since we didn't have a meeting in January. So staff's been very busy with the Zero Emission Passenger Rail and Trail project. So I have a quick update for you. We wrapped up the public outreach and engagement for milestone 3 of the project in December. We gained a significant amount of input this milestone. And what folks were giving input on were the refined rail and trail conceptual alignments, project funding options, ridership modeling approach, station locations and features, bridge structures, and noise impacts. Staff hosted 2 in-person community workshops, 1 in Santa Cruz, 1 in Watsonville, 3 virtual community information sessions, and a virtual open house. We received over 130 community members attending in-person open houses, and more than 2,200 users visited the virtual open house. We received 350 written comments as well as hundreds of meaningful interactions at our workshops at the in-person open houses. We also conducted a number of partner agency briefings, including cities of Watsonville, Capitola, Santa Cruz, County of Santa Cruz, California Coastal Commission, Roaring Camp, Santa Cruz Metro, the Seaside Company, RTC advisory committees, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So we've been very busy with engaging with our stakeholders and refining our project concept since the fall. We're now progressing toward the project milestone 4, which is the fourth and final milestone of the concept development, which includes preliminary options of probable cost estimates, results of conceptual ridership forecasts and transit operation modeling, and finally, the draft project concept report for public review and the commission review. So the cost estimates and ridership forecasting information will be made available in the coming weeks through information sessions. Staff anticipates bringing recommendations for alignment and station options to the commission starting in March. And just a side note about this project, things have kind of evolved since we started this concept development. We were really trying to finish this as soon as we possibly could because we were pursuing funding to fully fund the environmental phase of the project. Since the beginning of the concept development, the funding outlook has changed pretty significantly in that the kind of discretionary programs available to us are not going to be ready for quite some time. So we are still pursuing the available funding sources for completing the environmental document. We still need about $12 to $14 million to complete the environmental document. So staff's been very diligently pursuing grant funding for that. But just so we know, we don't have a hard deadline for this concept development, so it could end up kind of getting, pushed into the middle or even the fall of this calendar year, because of the magnitude of information that we're going to be bringing forward and a lot of kind of trade-offs that we're going to have to grapple with in the future. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up that that's where we're headed. Information's coming in the next couple weeks. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on that, but I'm going to continue with my report. So the California State Rail Plan was adopted on January 7th, 2025. There was a draft state rail plan back in 2018. Finally, Caltrans released the final state rail plan, which lays out a strategy for investments and steps designed to increase California's economic growth, improve quality of life, improve equity of the state's most vulnerable and impacted communities, and advance the state's ambitious climate action goals. The plan establishes a long-term vision and framework for integrated and cohesive statewide rail system that significantly improves freight and passenger mobility in the next 25 years and beyond. The Santa Cruz branch rail line is included in the rail plan's long-term network implementation as a spur off of the Central Coast Corridor from the future Pajaro Station in North Monterey County. The Pajaro Station, which is in the environmental review phase being implemented by the Transportation Agency for Monterey County, or TMC, is included as a midterm improvement that will be a crucial connection for the branch line to the state rail network and for the subsequent implementation of passenger rail from Pajaro to Santa Cruz. Staff continues to collaborate with TMC and state officials regarding the implementation of rail service and connectivity for Santa Cruz County and to seek opportunities to develop rail service plans and projects for the Santa Cruz branch rail line. Next is the RTC's Equity Action Plan, a quick update on that. My microphone keeps getting turned off, sorry. In addition to the RTC's 2025 non-discrimination Title 6, ADA plan, and draft regional definition of equity priority communities on today's consent agenda. As part of our commitment to fostering a more equitable transportation system, the RTC's Accessibility, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion consultants, the Justice Collective, are conducting an assessment of RTC policies, procedures, and practices. The commissioners and committee members will soon receive a survey to gather your insights on issues as it relates to our agency and transportation in our region. Your participation in this survey is crucial in helping us identify areas for improvement and to develop strategies to better serve all members of our community. Next, I want to talk about our legislative update that we had also on the consent agenda, and there's some obvious changes that are happening at the federal level and recent executive orders. So it's anticipated that federal priorities will shift significantly under the new administration. The previous administration prioritized intercity rail, reducing traffic deaths, zero-emission vehicles, and equitable transit, all of which are anticipated to face major rollbacks or be cut entirely. Many of the federal discretionary grant programs will likely not return under the new administration, which means that there will be fewer funds and grant opportunities for our region to apply for to fund our multimodal projects under development. On January 20th, President Trump signed a new executive order titled Unleashing American Energy, which aims to roll back spending on renewable energy and electric vehicle programs previously established by the Green New Deal. Our agency has not been directly affected by this executive order. However, some of our partner agencies have and are pending more information as it unfolds. On January 28th, President Trump issued an order pausing federal grants and loans to align federal funding with his administration's priorities. It is currently unclear how this will affect federal transportation funding at this time. Staff has been advised by our state partners and regional partners to continue requesting federal reimbursement on projects under development and to continue business as usual. RTC staff is closely monitoring these potential changes as we have about $50 million in discretionary grant awards that are pending formal grant agreements from the feds. On a lighter note, a happier note, we have a ribbon cutting that we have scheduled for the Chanticleer Bicycle and Pedestrian Overcrossing, or the Whale Bridge that you see out in the unincorporated area of Live Oak over Highway 1. We invite the community to save the date for the ribbon cutting ceremony for this overcrossing, and this will be on Wednesday, May 14th. It will be a late afternoon event starting at 5:30, and details are still being finalized and will be published in the coming months, but please save the date for that. We have a staffing update. As you know, we completed our restructuring in the fall and created several new positions, which we've been very hard at work filling. We are pleased to welcome new staff member Nick Fabricino, who started on January 7th as our real property technician. I believe he's online if he wants to pop in and say hello. Nick has a degree in economics and mathematics from the University of Toronto. His background is in commercial and residential real estate with 13 years of experience in property management. He joins our newly formed real property team within the Internal Services Division of the RTC and will be responsible for preventative maintenance program along the branch line right-of-way. Join me in welcoming Nick to our team. And finally, I have an update on the March Bicycle Advisory Committee meeting. It has been scheduled for March 17th at 5:30 p.m. at the RTC's conference room in downtown Santa Cruz. And this meeting was not reflected in the 3-month calendar that we had. And that concludes my director's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Christensen. And I see that we have Commissioner Kitos Carter online. If we can make sure we put that for the record. And is there any questions or comments from the board? Commissioner Rockin?
I have two questions. First of all, people have asked me why we moved the meeting in March to the 20th. What was the reason for that?
Sure. So a couple of reasons. Mainly it was the schedule of the zero emission passenger rail and trail project. The development of the information that we're bringing it would have been a little too tight to bring in early March, and we wanted to give our consultants and staff a little bit more time. It is going to be a decent amount of information. It's, likely going to be the main attraction of the meeting, if you will, right, on the regular agenda. So that was one reason. And then secondly, we had a couple of conflicts. There's a statewide conference for the California Council of Governments, or CalCog. They have a regional leadership forum, and this is an agency that the RTC participates in, and it's a really helpful resource for things like keeping on top of all these executive orders and policy changes in the state budget. And a couple of commissioners are planning to attend, as well as myself and planner Grace Blakesley. So we are, that was a conflict that we wanted to.
Thanks.
It all worked out, yeah.
That makes total sense. I noticed, my other issue, when you listed the groups we've interested parties we've consulted with on this, the alignment study, you didn't mention the Coastal Commission, and I wonder, have we had contact with the Coastal Commission? Have we, told them members of the public from time to time have told us they'll never allow us to do the whole thing, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just curious if you can give us any report on our contacts with them.
Sure, I listed them. There were a lot in there,
I just
but they
must have
were.
missed it.
We have been talking to the Coastal Commission quite a bit.
Thank you.
Definitely,
That's
yeah.
all I need.
Thank you. And if there's no more questions, then we'll take it out to the public for public comment. Seeing none, we'll bring it back. Moving on to the next item. Caltrans report. Commissioner Eads.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Scott Eads, Caltrans District 5 Director, happy to be with you here today in Watsonville. And I see that there's many new faces on the board, so welcome, and I look forward to working with each of you. And then just a little bit of background for the new members. Caltrans District 5 covers the counties of Santa Barbara County, San Luis Obispo, Monterey, San Benito, and Santa Cruz County. Most of our project development work is done in San Luis Obispo. That said, we have staff, of course, in construction and maintenance throughout all, geographically dispersed throughout the district. So you'll see our maintenance folks here as well as our construction employees. But those that are attending your board meeting, it'll be myself, or oftentimes the planning deputy, Brandy Ryder, are coming from San Luis Obispo. So happy to be here today. And now that since we're in Watsonville today, I just wanted to highlight several projects that are actually underway with Caltrans involvement in the community of Watsonville. It's in your package on tab 24. We have updates for all projects throughout the region. But just to highlight a few here in the community of Watsonville, we have a couple on Highway 129, a pavement preservation project and a capital maintenance project. Both in various phases of development. There's RTL is a reference, which means ready to list, which means it's ready to go to advertisement. So the first project, the pavement preservation project, will be going to advertisement or reaching RTL in May of 2025, which would mean that work would typically begin around 6 months after that. And then we have a capital maintenance project, which includes a number of different elements, which were in the early phases of project development. And then we have a pavement and complete streets project, which we're doing a lot in the core of downtown Watsonville on 152. That's in the environmental phase, so that's where we do the bulk of our studies, and it's a ways before we get to construction, but we're working very closely with the city staff on that one. And then there's a Watsonville downtown safety improvement project, which is also in the environmental phase, again, working closely with the city on that. That includes a number of bicycle and pedestrian elements. And then there's a Harkin Slough overcrossing improvement project, which we're coordinating with the city on that. Really, we'll be handing that off to the city, but making good progress on that one. And we expect construction phase to begin, actually to be allocated at the March CTC meeting, which is a great point of progress on that project. And then we have a sidewalk. It's not listed in the report, but there's a sidewalk for those of you who live in the community of Watsonville. There's a sidewalk along Struve Slough on 152 that has basically continued to settle in a way that's very problematic. The city has closed the sidewalk. We have initiated an emergency project to move that forward. So we still have to go through a studies phase and design the project, but we're hopeful that we can begin construction late this fall. So work is continuing to make those improvements happen, but we're happy to be able to report that we have the project funded in a way to move it forward now. So that's just touching on some of the projects in Watsonville. There's a lot more in your packet, so I encourage you to go in and read it. Of course, there's projects throughout the county that we're working on. And I also want to highlight there's links in that packet for quick maps, which if you're ever wondering what's going on in terms of road conditions, especially on the state highway system, there's a lot of great information in terms of if there's a closure there, is it CHP driven, CHP posts information, we post information about road closures and current conditions. So it's a really helpful read if you're looking to travel somewhere. You can look on Quick Maps. There's also a Quick Map app you can put on your phone. And then we also have our social media links, and then links where you can submit a customer service request, or any member of the public, anybody can submit a customer service request. If you see a downed tree or something that needs to be addressed, you can submit it there, and then we will follow up with our maintenance folks to make sure it's addressed. Also want to highlight that on Santa Cruz 9, there are some upcoming closures. This is to remove dead and dying brush and vegetation, to remove fuels for wildfire prevention. And so that's the vegetation control is occurring this week and next. It'll focus on Highway 9 between the city of Santa Cruz and Felton, and it will result in one-way traffic control Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. So just be aware if you're traveling, we are posting news releases and trying to make people aware of that. And then I also wanted to highlight Caltrans Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Programs. It's an annual program that we have for planning grants that Caltrans sponsors. The application period just closed. We had 20 applications in District 5, 3 within the county of Santa Cruz. So those will be evaluated, and ultimately Caltrans headquarters makes a determination on which ones get funded, but some of that early evaluation happens at the district level. And then, as Executive Director Christensen already noted, we're all monitoring changes at the federal level. It's, with the slew of executive orders and even layoffs or hiring freezes for FHWA and other entities that we work with a lot, we're not certain exactly what impact this will have. So we're trying to sort this out as well at the state level. We're monitoring it closely. I have been hearing that we're submitting bills to FHWA, and they are being paid in a timely manner. So far, they haven't actually stopped payment on many of the items that we're submitting, and we're being told to continue to submit payments, and with the hope they'll continue to be paid. And then also just wanted to note, I said this back in November when I attended the board meeting, that Sarah, being fairly new to her role, with many members on the board that are new, we're here to support, we're here to work in partnership. We think we can do more together if we're working in partnership with RTC. We're interested in doing that. And there's a lot going on in Santa Cruz, as you know, on the state highway system. And so our goal is to work closely with Sarah and her staff to move these projects forward in partnership. That concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Director Eads. Is there any questions from the board? Commissioner Shiffrin?
Yes. Thank you very much for your report. I wanted to bring to your attention, if you aren't already aware of it, of a project on the north coast of the county at Shark Fin Cove, which is a popular beach that is currently in a very dangerous traffic condition. The Board of Supervisors at one of its January meetings unanimously directed staff to pursue a project to improve the parking situation at Shark Fin Cove area. And the project would be in the Caltrans right-of-way. We understand Caltrans can't do the project. It's adjacent to the RTC rail trail project under construction, and the state park owns Shark Fin Cove. So we followed up and set up a meeting with Caltrans staff, since the Caltrans role will be critical. And I wanted to thank the staff for their speedy response to our request for a meeting. It's going to be held at the end of February, where Supervisor Cummings has already committed a significant amount of money towards a feasibility study. We're hoping to get support from the Coastal Conservancy. And given the dangerous conditions out there, we're really hoping we can have an expedited process through the Caltrans collaboration. So I did want to particularly thank your staff for their responsiveness.
Great. Happy to coordinate on that.
If there's no commissioners with questions, then we'll take it out to the public.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Aurelio Gonzalez. I'm a former commissioner and chair of the RTC, and I appreciate all your hard work and dedication to the community. I do have a question for Caltrans, and I do appreciate that they put the emergency sidewalk moving it forward. But my question is, since the squirrels or the gophers or whatever they are that are digging underneath that section of the freeway, has any studies been done? Have these animals tunneled all the way across where they have their own freeway from slough to slough, their natural habitat? And so that, because I mean, we drive that section of the highway and you can see the cracks increasing on the roadway and also going towards the slough, which the direction of the sidewalk's going. So that makes me think, you know, have these squirrels done their engineering and, you know, made their own pathway through back and forth. And also the other question I have for Caltrans is on the Highway 1 project from State Park to Freedom Boulevard. It's with a lot of the unknowns that's going on right now in the United States, which is towards funding. And because it also entails 2 rail bridges, which is going to be, you know, both working together, RTC and Highway 1. Is that project going to continue to move forward? And how much funding has it been allocated to that project? I've been out of the loop for a while, so that's why I'm asking that question. And so with that, you know, that's really critical for us in the city of Watsonville, because it's nice and it's beautiful that all the other part from State Park is going to be done, but if that section isn't completed, then it's kind of a waste of a bunch of millions of dollars, taxpayer dollars, because the city of Watsonville, the people that commute towards Santa Cruz, because they are people from Salinas and Prunedale, that use that section of a roadway. And so I just feel that that's a real priority, and I think we really need to focus on that section and make sure that it does get funded and it does get completed, being the bridges, because I know if the bridges aren't done, the highway ain't gonna get done. And so it's a collaboration between both agencies. And so I hope to hear some good words. Thank you.
I'm happy to touch on that. Through the
Okay,
chair,
you
if
can
you'd like me to.
answer right now before we go online.
So for the squirrels or whatever happens to be underneath there at the slow street, I'm not sure if it's actually the squirrels that are causing the highway to be undermined or just the material. I know we've had a history of settlement in that area that's probably due to the underlying geology and the soil type that the squirrels appear to be liking as well. But I can tell you that in terms of, it's an area that is known for years in terms of settlement. We have geotechnical engineers that evaluated what is the best solution near term for the sidewalk and then long term for the sidewalk, and those are really 2 different things, and the roadway itself. So we're looking at different solutions. Ultimately, if it continues to settle, we may need something that's more like a structure that can handle some settlement underneath it. But again, those are costly solutions, and we're working to evaluate the right solution near term and long term for both the sidewalk and the roadway. In terms of the larger Highway 1 and improvements, I can just tell you that this is one of many projects that are being coordinated together RTC has been very successful in securing, putting in applications and then securing state funds as well as federal funds. The federal funding picture may be changing, but there's still state funds out there that are competitive in nature. Where we have been coordinating with RTC staff closely on some of these applications. I think this is a very competitive project. The series of projects that we have here and the ones that are still outstanding in terms of funding, I think are in a good position to receive funding. And so we're in it with RTC to continue to submit applications with the goal of getting these funded. As with any large corridor project like this, they're broken into smaller pieces and funded in fundable chunks, and that's the goal here, is to continue the work and make sure that all the pieces come together with adequate funding.
Thank you, Director Eads. Is there anyone online?
Yes, we have Lowell Hurst.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say good morning to the commissioners and thank them for their services, but especially Caltan Director Eads and his focus on Watsonville. He's always been very helpful in bringing agency resources to the city. And I just wanted to reiterate what former Mayor Gonzalez said about the need for transportation in our community. It's critical, and we really appreciate the focus on Highway 152, 129, and Highway 1 as it intersects with our community. So thank you very much, Director Eads. That's it.
There are no other speakers online.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, item 25, Commissioner Committees Appointments. And if we can have our fearless director, Christensen, take this one.
Sure. So we have a couple of committees that we appoint to. So typically, the way that it works is the chair nominates, and then the commission will vote on these committee appointments. So there's three, and I'll go through each one. So first, we have an appointee to the California Council of Governments. I mentioned this organization a little earlier, in that there's a big conference happening in Sacramento in early March. We're very active in this Council of Governments, and they're a great resource for us. And we appoint one member of our commission to the board of the CalCog. And previously, this seat was held by Supervisor Zach Friend from District 2. And obviously, we need to appoint a new member of the commission to the California Council of Governments. So that's the first one. I'm going to go through all three, and then we can go from there. Secondly, we have the Budget, Administration, and Personnel Committee, which is a committee of 6 members, and they meet twice annually, primarily to review the draft budget, and usually make recommendations as to, the Budget, Administration, and Personnel Committee recommends, the budget be adopted by the full commission. So it's more of a tighter review of the details of the budget, and if there's changes in things, staff's able to get those kinds of inputs from that committee. It's a very valuable committee, and typically this committee in the past, or the last year at least, was made up of the 5 county supervisors plus one, and that one last year was Commissioner Eduardo Montesino. So that's the second committee that we would like to have appointments made today. And the third and last one is the Coast Rail Coordinating Council. This is an organization that the RTC participates in as part of the Central Coast Corridor, rail corridor between the Losan Corridor, which is in San Luis Obispo, all the way to San Jose, so connecting to the Bay Area. And we're part of this Central Coast Corridor, and have an appointee that we have on the Coast Rail Coordinating Council. And our current member is Commissioner Alexander Peterson. with the alternate being Mike Rodkin.
So out of the three, only that one has an alternate, the third one, the Coast Rail Council.
Correct. Well, the Budget Administration Personnel Committee, the alternates of the supervisors sometimes attend on their behalf.
Got it. So we'll start off with the CalCog. I know that Commissioner Koenig has expressed interest. I'd like to nominate him for CalCog. If there's a second.
I'll second. Sorry, two of us.
So we got a motion and a second. I'm not sure who won. I think Commissioner DeSerpa got that one. So if all those in favor,
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Koenig on CalCog.
Okay. Normally, the way these appointments have worked is that on one agenda, there was an announcement that there would be openings, and then people would submit their recommendations or interests to the chair. I don't have any objection to appointing, supporting Commissioner Koenig, but the process just seems different than the one the commissioners used in the past. And was that done on purpose, or what's the intention here?
Sure, I could speak to that. So I guess in the past, when we make commissioner appointments, we tend to introduce the item 1 month and then make the appointments in a subsequent meeting. When it comes to the CalCog and I would say all three of these, because we didn't have a January meeting, we have a need to fill these positions. So if we don't want to make If the commission doesn't want to make, permanent appointments to these three committees today, we do request that interim appointments be made because there's several activities happening for all three of these. We have a B&A committee meeting in March that we obviously would like to, talk to the committee about the draft budget. We have the CalCog conference and other activities happening in early March. And then finally, the Coast Rail Coordinating Council is in, 2 weeks from now, is another meeting that, staff and the appointee will be attending, or alternate will be attending. So in the interest of timing, if we don't make permanent appointments today, which we could very well do, staff requests that the chair make interim appointments if that is a better approach.
I'm fine with the regular appointments for the sake of, being on time with the conferences, the two meetings, and the fact that we missed the last board meeting was canceled. If Commissioner Schifrin's okay with that.
I'm fine with, my only real concern is not with CalCog or the Coastal Rail. It's really with the Budget Administration, because we have a couple of new commissioners who are also supervisors who may or may not want to be on the Budget Administration Commission. So, I think Commissioner Cummings definitely wants to continue on that, but, I'm fine with making the appointments today, but I think we need to check to see whether there are other commissioners who would like to go on that committee, and if there are commissioners who currently, their seats on there but don't want to stay on there. So, I think we should vote on the CalCog since there's a motion on the floor, and maybe we can then move on to the
Okay.
other one.
So all those in favor of appointing Commissioner Koenig to CalCog, say aye.
Aye.
Sounds unanimous. Is that unanimous?
Call for any opposed.
Okay.
So just call for any opposed.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. The next one, we're going to skip over the Budget and Personnel Committee and go to the Coast Rail Council. Is there anyone that has expressed interest in the Coast Rail Council? I'm gonna appoint somebody.
I'm happy to continue my
Okay.
role.
So I
Okay.
would move we appoint the current members.
Let me just say, I'm willing to continue to serve as an alternate, but if somebody wants it, I'm not
Okay.
going to stand in their way.
So I guess we'll appoint the current members, which is,
Well, that's the motion. If somebody
Could
would
someone say who the current members are? I'm unaware.
yeah, I'm unaware too.
Mr. Peterson's the representative, and I'm the, Michael Rotkins, the alternative.
So we have a motion for to reappoint the current members.
Commissioner DeSerpa, were you saying that you were interested in serving there as well?
I am, but I'm willing to defer, but I am interested in that.
Do we have a second for the current members? Or
Second.
We don't, yeah? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm confused. What are we doing?
Reappointing you.
Okay. But could I ask, could you express what your interest is, Kim?
If there was no other interest in anybody on the Coast Rail Coordinating Council, I would be interested in serving there, but it sounds like the current members are willing to continue serving, so. And I think we just had a vote, but I'm not sure.
Well, we might,
Again, I'm willing to continue serving, but if you'd like to be the alternate, I'm certainly willing to step aside. I'm planning to already have a hotel room for the 20th of this month, but after that, I'd be happy to be replaced if that's something you'd like to get involved in.
Thanks, Mike. I actually would like to be involved with it if possible, just for my own learning. I think it's an important role, and I don't know much about the Coast Corridor, so I think it would be good for me to
Do we
be
use
on it to
substitute
learn.
motions here?
So I would move that we reconsider the last motion to appoint to the Coastal Rail Coordinating Committee.
Second that reconsideration.
so that would be Commissioner Peterson and Commissioner DeSerpa.
We have to vote
vote on whether we're-
Is that what you're-
reconsider, then we
Okay.
can vote again.
So do we have a second on that?
Yes.
Okay, so let's take all those in favor of reconsidering the motion? Say aye.
So I would move that Commissioner Peterson be the appointee to the Coastal Rail and Commissioner DeSerpa be the alternate for the Coastal Rail Coordinating Committee.
And if I could offer an amendment, I'm still willing to go on the 20th, but would you want to go to the 20th to send?
Well, there needs to be a second to the motion. Why don't you second the motion?
I'll second it, but then we raise the question of a possible
Are
amendment,
we talking about February 2nd or March?
February 20th.
I think unfortunately I have a new supervisor's orientation with CSEC.
So I'd amend it to say that for the next meeting, I'll remain in this position as the alternate and go to that meeting. But after that, for the rest of the year, you're going to be the alternate.
That's acceptable to the maker of the motion.
So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Motion,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Hernandez. Steve, do we need to do a roll call since we have Commissioner Quiroz Carter on the line?
Yeah, we do. We should do the vote by roll call.
can we have a roll call vote?
We're doing that because we have one commissioner online right now, so you're operating with a remote meeting as well.
And is that for all appointees or just this one? I'm confused.
Everything from now on.
For
It would be
everything.
better if Yesenia were to call the roll on the three motions that have been made, or the two motions that have been made.
I'm sorry, just for clarification, am I a voting member since I'm an alternate? I'm not sure
Yes.
if I.
You are a voting
Okay.
member, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we will go ahead and get started with CalCog. Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Keeley? Commissioner Hernandez?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Schifrin?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSerpa?
Aye.
Commissioner Koenig?
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Kalantari Johnson? Aye. Commission Alternate Quiroz Carter?
Aye.
Commissioner Rotkin?
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
That passes unanimously. Next, we'll go to the Coast Rail Council.
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Keeley? Commissioner Hernandez?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Schifrin?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSerpa?
Aye.
Commissioner Koenig?
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Kalantari Johnson?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Quiroz Carter?
Aye.
Commissioner Rotkin?
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yesenia,
Ginny.
you didn't call me on roll or any of the votes.
I apologize.
And I don't
Commi-
mind, but I think that that's probably not as plumb and square as our attorney would like.
Correct, correct.
Thank you.
Commission Alternate Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now it passes unanimously. So now we have the Budget and Personnel Committee. So can you give a brief description of the past members and if they're still interested, I guess, too?
Sure. So I mentioned in the introduction, the Budget Administration and Personnel Committee in the past has been, or the immediate past last year was the 5 county supervisors plus 1. And the 1 member was the appointee from Watsonville, which is Chair Eduardo Montesino. And so that was really the previous committee. So, the commission can appoint really anybody, but we would, if it's not a permanent appointment, we request that interim appointments be made so that we can actually hold the meeting in March to get our draft budget reviewed in advance of our April commission adoption.
Well, I'm pretty sure all the commissioners, all the board members would like to stay on, and if people are okay with it, I'll continue to appoint Montesino and then the board members.
I would make that as a motion.
And I'll second that motion.
But in terms of discussion, the committee has had problems in the past sometimes with getting a quorum. So I would ask that, these are off-time meetings. So if you're not particularly thrilled by getting into all the details or the budget and personnel administration issues, you may want to not get appointed and let somebody else who might be interested do it. The committee doesn't meet that often, but it's an important committee, and it's very frustrating to go to meetings and only have 2 or 3 people show up and not have a quorum, so that we can't really make any official action, take any official action. But I think otherwise it's, the proposed membership makes sense.
Would you be able to share the next meeting date and time and kind of when they're typically scheduled?
Sure. It is
March 13th.
March 13th, and it is at 1:30 PM, correct? Okay. And again, this is a meeting that happens usually only twice a year, so once in March and once in October usually, or September, depending on when. And it's typically the second Thursday of the month, thank you, Yesenia, at 1:30 in the afternoon, and the meetings typically last an hour, maybe 2 hours at the most. Sure.
And did I hear correctly that your alternate could stand in if I
Correct.
wasn't able to attend?
Correct.
Then I'd be happy to continue on or participate in that.
Thank you. So can we get a schedule of all 3, send it to the board members that are on the committees and the alternates as well?
Will do.
So we have a motion. Can we take a roll call vote?
Yes. Commissioner Peterson? Aye. Commissioner Keeley? Aye. Commission Alternate Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Schifrin?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSerpa?
Aye.
Commissioner Koenig?
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Kalantari Johnson?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Kitos Carter?
Aye.
Commissioner Rotkin?
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
Ooh, we got through that. That passes unanimously. Next, we'll go on to item 26, a presentation from the City of Watsonville. And we have Murray Fontes and Courtney Lindberg from the Public Works.
Good morning, Chair Hernandez, members of the commission. My name is Murray Fonts. I'm Assistant Public Works Director with the City of Watsonville. I'm here on behalf of the city and of my boss, Courtney Lindberg. welcome to Watsonville. We appreciate you coming and joining us today. I'm going to review some of the projects that the city of Watsonville developed in 2024 regarding transportation. I'll share with you the different funding sources so that you can get a sense of where the money comes from. Please be aware that when it comes to funds, there are broadly two kinds. One is an allocation that the city gets and has a good sense of that they'll get over the course of the year. The other source are competitive. We have to go out and earn those, and those are generally earmarked for specific projects. I will be dropping acronyms on you. SB1 stands for State Transportation Funding through Senate Bill 1. Gas tax is funding that comes through the state. You know what Measure D is. Transportation systems involve pavement, but they're made up of a lot more. And I hope you'll observe that in the city of Watsonville, we look at all different aspects of our transportation system, of our users, those who bike, those who walk, those who ride buses, and those who drive cars, and we try to address their needs. Someone moved it, thank you. I'd like to start with road improvement projects. In 2024, Watsonville completed a 1.2-mile road maintenance and restriping project on Ohlone Parkway, which added a new stop sign and a flashing beacon to improve pedestrian safety. This was funded with a combination of Regional Surface Transportation Program exchange funding that the city received through the RTC and SB1 funds. This is one of two projects that Watsonville will be recognized for at tonight's American Public Works Association Monterey Bay Area Chapter Awards Ceremony. The city also restriped 1/2 mile of Freedom Boulevard using SB1 and Measure D funds, and Watsonville sometimes leverages the fact that it's a water service provider and uses water replacement projects to repave portions of the road as well as restripe and take advantage of those funding sources. And there was a 1/3 of a mile of Pennsylvania Drive that was redone as a result of a water project. In the way of traffic improvements, in 2024, Watsonville installed a new traffic signal at the intersection of Freedom Boulevard and Sydney Avenue. This was funded in part by State Transportation Improvement Program funds that were channeled to the city through the RTC, as well as gas tax, SB1, and Measure D. The city also updated what it calls its neighborhood traffic management plan. And this is the way that residents can reach out to city staff and identify concerns within their neighborhoods regarding traffic safety. With that information, we were able to identify many minor projects that could be done by city crews, such as installing stop signs, additional traffic markings, and signage. This was funded through gas tax, general fund, and Measure D. Watsonville improved pedestrian and bicycle safety through safety training programs and infrastructure improvements. Programs such as bicycle and pedestrian safety training in nearly all public elementary schools within the city and Bike Month activity were done in partnership with Ecology Action and funded through state active transportation grants secured by Watsonville. City Cruz installed or upgraded 108 crosswalks using high visibility patterns and materials, and this was funded by general fund and gas tax. The city continued its partnership with Watsonville Wetlands Watch to maintain the 7-mile trail network that weaves through its slough network using funding from city sales tax Measure R. Whoops. Thank you. During 2024, Watsonville secured 2 grants that will assist with pedestrian and bicycle safety within the community. One was a federally funded Safe Streets for All, so we're keeping our fingers crossed, planning grant of $320,000 to prepare an active transportation plan. Also, Watsonville was a sub-applicant with Ecology Action on a $7.2 million California Air Resources Control Board grant to fund multiple programs and projects in the South County, including within Watsonville, e-bikes, e-cars, an electric street sweeper that is small enough to clean separated bike lanes, maintenance for the city's trail network, and installation of a sidewalk on an area of Freedom Boulevard. The city continues to work on a Caltrans Sustainable Planning Grant, which will align with its Vision Zero goal of improving safety along a high collision corridor. The city continues to partner on several projects. Commissioner Eads mentioned the 3 projects that the city is working with Caltrans on that total tens of millions of dollars to improve the 2 of the 3 state routes that go through Watsonville, Highway 129 and 152. And Watsonville is especially appreciative of the prompt response that Caltrans has made to the sidewalk issues on Main Street at Struve Slough. We haven't heard from the squirrels either in terms of permitting, but they're hard at work. The squirrels are nuts. Watsonville is also partnering with Santa Cruz Metro on redevelopment of the Watsonville Transit Center, creating affordable housing with a transit center and ticketing office on the ground floor. The project will involve relocating some of the bus terminals into the public roadway. And Watsonville continues to work with RTC staff in development of the zero emissions passenger rail and trail project within its city limits. Watsonville is moving forward on a number of regional bicycle and pedestrian projects. In the upper left corner, there's a light blue line. This is the Harkin Slough Road pedestrian bridge to be constructed across Highway 1. This project has long been in the making. It will provide pedestrian and bicycle safety for those traveling to and from Pajaro Valley High School. I'm pleased to say that next month, the city is submitting to be on the California Transportation Commission agenda to approve allocation of a portion of the $11.7 million State Active Transportation Program grant secured by the city for construction of not only the bridge, but a number of pedestrian and bike improvements along that corridor and among schools that feed into Pajaro Valley High School. Another project shown in the darker blue on the left is the Lee Road Trail Project, which will extend from the high school driveway to the future rail trail connection at Lee Road. The first phase of this project will go from the high school to property owned by Santa Cruz County Land Trust. It's funded through an appropriation from Senator Jimmy Panetta's office, as well as California Natural Resources Agency funding that the Land Trust secured and is making available to the city. Other projects include the Zero Emissions Passenger Rail and Trail Project. This one is shown in red. There are 2 alignments. There's been discussion of either using the rail corridor or perhaps involving Beach Street. Watsonville residents are thrilled about that idea because the city has long desired to create a pedestrian bicycle access route down to the beach. And what better road than Beach Street? It would be a collaborative project with the county, but we're appreciative of the opportunity to move forward on this. And then the last corridor or passenger trail is the Green Line. This is along the levees. Staff has been in conversation with Pajaro Valley Flood Management Agency staff about incorporating a formal pedestrian trail into the levee restoration project that's going on. So Watsonville has a handful of future road projects that are coming up. One involves reconstruction of a portion of Green Valley Road. This one will be funded with $1.8 million awarded through a regional transportation improvement program funding secured competitively through the RTC as well as Measure D funds. These improvements will not only reconstruct the road, but also provide better pedestrian and bike facilities. Bridge Street, shown in green, will get a facelift. It was abused recently by the Pajaro Valley Water Management Agency project and will be reconstructed. Another project is the orange dot shown at the intersection of Main Street and Riverside. This will be a reconfiguration of the northbound Main Street lane. We have issues with delays, so we're going to change the laneage and signal operation to address that. And then the last project shown here in blue is on Freedom Boulevard, that California Air Resources Board grant will help fund the sidewalk here in addition to reconstructing a portion of the roadway. We're currently in design on that. The city is putting the finishing touches on a 6-year pavement management program. This will be our blueprint for future projects. This will allow us to better position ourselves to fund reconstruction projects within the roadway and for pedestrian and bikes. And finally, I'd like to share an exciting project that's just wrapped up. Watsonville has a wonderful artist community. And in the past, their talents have been incorporated into city infrastructure, painting traffic signal controller boxes or tile mosaic medallions within the sidewalks. This one is called Watsonville Brillante, and it recently was finished. It's being recognized as a chapter project of the year at this evening's Public Works Association Awards ceremony. The project was launched by local artist Kathleen Crossetti in 2019. Her vision was to illustrate the ethnic heritages of Watsonville's people, Indigenous, Latino, Asian, European, and more. The project stretches across the 6-story parking structure adjacent to this building. Many of you probably parked in it, and I hope before you leave you'll take a minute to check it out. There are 4 large vertical mosaic murals designed by San Francisco artist Juan R. Fuentes, who grew up in agricultural labor camps outside Watsonville. Each represents different aspects of Watsonville's cultural identity. The project also includes 185 horizontal murals in between the vertical ones, and each mural also represents cultural identity within the city. They were designed by 120 local artists, and 105 of those artists were high school students when they initially submitted their designs. In total, more than 600 volunteers, many of them were high school students, participated in putting together the mosaics. And as a part of the parking structure, we're excited that it can be part of our network. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Director Fontes. Is there any questions from the board? Oh, microphone.
Where's the lower right-hand corner? It's a mosaic, I guess. Where is that in Watsonville?
The one shown on this image?
Yes, on the right-hand bottom corner.
It's one of those 185 that are going around the 3 sides of the adjacent parking structure.
Thank you.
I believe that's the one by Subway side on 2nd Street. Commissioner Koenig?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director Fontes, for the presentation. A couple of quick questions. As far as the levee project, and I mean, this actually might be just as much for Director Christensen, as far as the levee project goes and the rail crossing, the rail bridge over the Pajaro River, what's the current plans for addressing the rail crossing, since we have to increase the height of the levees? And how is that project moving forward relative to the whole levee project?
Sure. So I believe you're referring to the zero-emission passenger rail and trail concept development, which includes looking at structures that may need to be either rehabilitated or replaced. The Pajaro River Railroad Bridge will need to be replaced as part of the project. We're coordinating closely with both PERFMA and the Army Corps staff in order to coordinate the flood control improvements and what is envisioned by that project, which is maybe, let's say, 10 years out. So it's a ways out in terms of what is being proposed is a little bit uncertain because they're still doing analysis to figure out whether the levees get pushed back or raised. We may not have to raise the bridge as high as we originally thought when we first started this process, which is good news. But it is an ongoing discussion point, and we met with them as part of all the other stakeholders to, get into the details about coordinating the two improvements. But I suppose we don't know at this point, but we will continue to refine our design and coordinate with that major project. That is a huge project that has multiple phases, and this one's about 10 years out or so.
Okay, well, I mean, I guess it doesn't strike me as necessarily a passenger rail, linked to the passenger rail project, since of course we still have active freight in that portion of the line coming into Walker Street in Watsonville. And so it seems to me that whatever we do with the levee, we're going to have to address the bridge.
Correct.
When the levee project is done, rather than 10 years from now.
Correct.
So what you're telling me is it is moving forward independently of the passenger rail project, because you're assessing with the Army Corps now how to address the bridge?
Correct. We are, because these are two major projects, and both are financially constrained, obviously, we're trying to figure out the best way to accomplish the flood control improvements and the current and future rail improvements together, ideally, if we can. So there's a lot of uncertainty. I'll just leave it at that, because, yeah.
Okay. And assuming we have to rebuild the bridge or do some kind of improvements on that connection, in tandem with the levee project, would those funds then have to come out of the rail designated portion of Measure D, at least as far as local match goes?
Correct. We've also been looking at potential future grant funding opportunities as well.
Right. And if I understand correctly, the current plan for the trail on that portion is extension of the rail bridge itself, so whatever suspended or hanging portion for bikes and pedestrians.
Well, there's options for the trail as well, depending on the elevations, and so we're incorporating those concepts into the zero emission passenger rail and trail work. One option is to have the trail right next to the rail line, which is what was envisioned as part of the master plan. There's a lot of other options that we're considering that might look like, maybe an improvement on the local road, Main Street, or another connection that maybe directly serves the Pajaro station, because that's really the crucial connection to the Pajaro station for active transportation users. So more details to come. I apologize for not having the answer, completely worked out, but we're working really closely with Army Corps, the city, PERFMA, and others to work these details out.
Okay, thank you. And then for the new commissioners, and help me jog my memory as far as where we're at as far with the rail trail segment 18, and it's great to hear, Director Fontes, that there's excitement about the potential of doing that on Beach Street. What's the timing as far as moving forward with environmental documents?
I'll take a shot at it, and Sarah can fill in the details. Watsonville stood down on its design of segment 18 when the ZEPRT study came forward, to ensure that the finished product would be in alignment with both the rail and the trail. So at this time, we're waiting completion of the design. But I understand that once the concept is done, if the city wants to move forward, there's an opportunity to do that. There still seems to be decision as to whether the best choice is to stay within the rail corridor or to shift it over to Beach Street.
And I'll just add that next week, RTC staff is coming to the City of Watsonville City Council to present these options and get input, and we're actively engaging with the community as well in order to get preferences and input on what alignment we look at, because there's a couple different options, and I would expect that we would begin environmental in some form, hopefully this calendar year, because we had a commitment of measured deactive transportation funds that was made last fall for this specific project, and it's definitely a much needed and prioritized portion of the coastal rail trail network that we all have an interest in seeing come to fruition, so.
Great, thank you.
Thank you again for the comments. Assistant Director Fontes, if there's anyone in the online.
Lowell Hurst.
Thank you very much. Kudos and commendations to Engineer Font. You know, he's the kind of guy who just doesn't sound good at the microphone and look good with a tie. He's actually out in the field with his hard hat and his safety vest and his measuring devices, and he's actually doing some tremendous work, and you saw we have a tremendous presentation today, and so he's the kind of employee that every agency would really like to duplicate and have, loyal, dedicated, extremely knowledgeable, flexible, has a good sense of humor, but really gets the work done. And so kudos and commendations to Murray Fonts, and that presentation was very good. Thank you.
Oops, I skipped over the public comment from the chambers. Please step up and.
Yeah, that's, sorry, Commissioners, I wanted to clarify if it was open to public comments, and I guess it is now. So anyways, again, Aurelio Gonzalez of the City of Watsonville. Thank you, Mr. Fonts, for that presentation. He is a very dedicated individual for the City of Watsonville, and we do greatly appreciate all his hard work. And he always wins the egg dropping contest that he has. I think it's rigged, but anyways, thank you, Mary. You know, various questions here, since they opened up the rail trail segment of this part. You know, it's important to understand that we do want the trail. We do want segment 18, at least my opinion. I won't be here. I'll be in Mexico when this event happens, so I'm going to take the opportunity right now to voice my opinion on this. And I think we need to open up the rail trail from Walker Street to Lee Road, and then create the diversion from Lee Road down West Beach Street to the beach and up San Andres Road. I think that's the most viable way to go, and it'll be more used, because you see nowadays already bikers that are on San Andres Road, and these are tourists, you know, that are going from Santa Cruz up to Monterey, and they may have been coming down all the way from San Francisco. But anyways, that's my take on that, because it does connect to Lee Road project. And when I was on the city council, that was one of my little projects that I had that I really want to make sure that it accomplishes, it gets done, because it's a safety net for our kids and it's a safety net for our community to be able to ride a bike or walk on the radius of the city of Watsonville, right? Because Lee Road will connect to the high school for Ohlone. And so if we can get kids to get on the trail from Ohlone community and down 2nd Street and those areas to be able to ride that safely, that'd be good. Because on West Beach Street in the industrial area, that'd be a little bit more treacherous for folks to drive on. And you'd have to really be an experienced bike rider and to be able to handle that kind of traffic on that road. And so for that section, I think it's important that we keep the trail right next to the rail and then just move it on forward from the Lee Road project. And And so it's going to be good to see also the Harkins Slough project move forward. Again, I won't be here for the CTC awarding of the money, and hopefully we do get the money awarded, because it is a project that's way overdue for our community. Our kids are continuously having to travel dangerous paths, just like those kids in Scotts Valley. They have to travel dangerous paths to get to school. And it's really important that we take and safeguard our community, especially our children. So again, thank you, the city of Watsonville, for moving forward on a lot of these projects. And I look forward to the Main Street project moving forward also in the Safe Streets and Vision Zero. I think the city of Watsonville has done a really good work in moving forward on safety for our community. We always have to struggle with the folks that are on their phones and not paying attention on traffic or too much in a hurry. It only takes 5 minutes to slow down and save a life. So just remember, slow down, get off your phone, and save a life. Thank you.
Thank you. Former Commissioner Gonzalez. So if we don't have any more public in the chambers or online, we're going to move on to.
We do have
Oh,
more
we do?
online, yes.
Okay.
Lonnie Faulkner?
Hello, thank you so much, Commissioners. I've had the honor of working with Mr. Fontes on Vision Zero and Safe Streets, and he is a tremendous resource for our county, and it's been truly wonderful working with him. He's very thoughtful, hardworking, and I just want to extend my appreciation publicly and to this commission, just to be aware how wide his impact has been, because I don't live in Watsonville, I actually live in Live Oak. And he's just doing amazing work. I'm also excited to see the direction in providing safe pedestrian and bike access for Watsonville community members, ensuring the community has safe access to the beaches. We've known for a long time that people living in parts of Watsonville might be only 15 minutes by car away, but could not, because such a large percentage of community members don't have access to vehicles, could not get to the beach. And these changes, these thoughtful additions, are really important to the community, and I'm so pleased and honored to be able to hear Mr. Fontes present and the work that he does. Thank you.
Mr. Brian Peoples?
Hi, this is Brian Peoples representing Trail Now, local organization, been around for over a decade. Our goal is to build the coastal trail in a timely, cost-effective, and eco-friendly manner. And actually, a sad note is that Dr. Rob Quinn was a co-founder of the organization.
Oops, shoot. Sorry, Brian.
How's that?
Yes, sorry about that.
No worries, thank you. Anyway, so again, our goal is to build the coastal trail in a timely, cost-effective manner, which is not the case right now. Only 1 mile has been built, and it's costing $26 million per mile to build. And for Watsonville, they're never going to see a trail if we don't be realistic and do what actually Guy Preston recommended over 3 years ago, which was to railbank. Guy Preston was the former RTC director and the expert, because he understood. So I'll cut it short, but essentially think about Harkins Slough and the idea that that could be a world-class trail through there. And if we do what all the other communities across America have done by applying the federal rail banking process, we can open up the coastal trail in our lifetime to Watsonville. We have an estimated that Guy Preston said the fastest way to get it built would be to rail bank. You could have a trail from Santa Cruz to Watsonville in 2 years. According to what Guy Preston, those were what he said at his last meeting. So I want to encourage this forum to start being realistic, especially with what's going on at the federal level for funding. We gotta open that coastal corridor, so let's be realistic on how best to open it. Thanks again for your time.
We have no more speakers.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to item 27, Climate Adaptation Vulnerability Assessment and Priorities Report. Staff presentation from Brianna Goodman. Hey.
Good morning, I'm Tim Gross with WSP. I'm joined by Brianna Goodman of your staff and Dave Reed with the County Office of Response, Recovery, and Resilience. And today we're presenting to you the Santa Cruz County Climate Adaptation Vulnerability Assessment and Transportation Priorities Report for your approval. That's the CAVA for short. The CAVA was a partnership between the county and RTC and was funded by a Caltrans planning grant. I'll talk a little bit about the framework behind the CAVA. Brianna will cover next steps for the Santa Cruz Branch Rail Line, and Dave will talk a little bit about the next steps for the county roadway network.
Can I interrupt you just real quick?
Yes.
For the new board members that are here, the new commissioners.
Yes.
And for the public, the acronyms are hard.
Yes.
So WSP stands for what?
Yeah, I'm on the consultant team supporting the CAVA, and our company's called WSP.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Yep. Which stands for Williams Sales Partnership, but we go by WSP. Sorry about that. So in terms of, obviously we've seen over the last few years, climate-related hazards have significantly affected the transportation network in Santa Cruz County. Those types of hazards are expected to accelerate, to continue to intensify and become more frequent in the county. And so it's important that we know where those hazards are likely to occur and what the impacts to the broader communities will be when they do occur. And that's the main purpose of this CAVA. So we studied two different roadway networks, the branch rail line and the rail trail segments and bridges and culverts that go along with that. And then also the county maintained roadway network and the roadway segments, bridges and culverts that go along with that. The hazards that we looked at are listed below at the bottom of the slide. So anything from all climate related hazards, so anything from riverine flooding to debris flow to landslide, wildfire, wind, and also coastal hazards driven by sea level rise like coastal erosion and coastal flooding. The key concept behind the CAVA is really our risk to the transportation system is a function of likelihood and consequence. So likelihood is the probability that a hazard will occur at the location of a particular transportation asset, and the consequence is the damage to that asset and the disruption to the system, including the communities who depend on that transportation asset. The CAVA framework and the overall risk results that were a result of the framework were both heavily vetted by community and stakeholder engagement. We presented that framework to this commission about a year ago today in this building, and we presented the results back in September at another commission meeting. A little bit more on how the scoring process works, just as a refresher or a quick intro. This is take a hypothetical transportation asset, so like a roadway segment, and a hazard, in this case debris flow. So we take data or metrics related to the likelihood of that hazard occurring, in this case projected rainfall, heavy rainfall, projected wildfire, the slope adjacent to the roadway. We normalize those variables and we weight them based on the relative importance to come up with a likelihood score that ranges from 0 to 10. We do the same on the consequence side, so we look at things like the travel volume of the roadway, whether it's in a disadvantaged community, whether there's a bike infrastructure along that roadway, and we weight those together and come up with this consequence score ranging from 0 to 10. So we then multiply that likelihood and consequence score together to come up with a debris flow hazard score, which ranges from 0 to 100. We do that process for all the different hazard types you see listed here, and then combine those together into an overall priority score based on averaging. And so that enables us to compare different assets with one another and the risk to different assets with one another in terms of both their likelihood and consequence. So I'll hand it now to Brianna to talk a little bit more about how this fits into the broader adaptation planning picture.
Thank you, Tim. And a sincere thank you to the entire consultant team at WSP for their great work on this analysis. Good morning, Commissioners. Brianna Goodman of your planning staff and RTC project manager for the CAVA. The CAVA framework and risk analysis Tim just walked us through represents step 1 of the Caltrans adaptation framework you now see on your screen. Moving on to step 2, identifying actions to enhance resilience can include operational improvements to enhance emergency response, policy changes to update design standards, as well as location or asset-specific detailed assessments for capital improvements, which will determine next steps for enhancing resiliency and consider options to protect, accommodate, or retreat. Step 3 funds and implements these resilience measures. Slide.
You have a clicker. There's your clicker on there.
Okay. I have control this time. That never happens. As you can see in the image above, on the Santa Cruz Branch Rail line, in red, there are 6 locations that received multiple high-risk scores across a range of asset types, including rail segments, rail bridges, and rail culverts. These include the Pajaro River floodplain, Harkins Slough, and Aptos Village areas, which showed high overall risk for flooding, while the La Selva Beach and Capitola Village areas showed high risk due to coastal erosion. The segment between the San Lorenzo River Trestle and the Santa Cruz Wharf scored high for flooding as well as sea level rise related impacts. The RTC has already been awarded a Caltrans planning grant to develop the plan for climate resilience along the Zeppert corridor in order to identify actions for long-term viability and resilience to climate stressors at the most vulnerable locations on the Santa Cruz Branch Rail line. This will complete step 2 of the Caltrans adaptation framework for these locations. The boardwalk area, climate resilience options will be evaluated as part of a separate effort in collaboration with the City of Santa Cruz and the Seaside Company, and we have begun those conversations with the City of Santa Cruz. And now I will turn it over to Dave Reed. Dave Reed is the Director of the County Office of Response, Recovery, and Resilience, and he will discuss next steps after the CAVA for the County of Santa Cruz. Thank you.
Good morning, Commission. Dave Reed, OR3. Before I begin, I want to first appreciate the collaboration between the RTC, Brianna as our lead, and the consultant team. It's been a great project to work collaboratively. I'm speaking on behalf of the county, but Steve Wiesner within our Community Development and Infrastructure Department and his staff was a key part of this process as well. So what I wanted to talk about a little bit is just kind of how we at the county side are going to continue to use this data. As was discussed, we looked at the county maintained road network, really focusing on the high volume traffic roads rather than the kind of local road network. As we're all aware, as Tim mentioned, climate is here. Climate change is impacting our community. This is a plot of California-based federally declared disasters over the last number of years, and we've seen this accelerating for us here locally. As a reminder, the County of Santa Cruz, including many of our cities, have experienced 8 federally declared disasters in the last 7 years. With the exception of COVID, all of those have impacted both our rail corridor and our road networks, both in the county and in the incorporated cities. So we're experiencing this in real time, and we're experiencing the financial impacts of these disasters in real time. So how do we move forward in that? It's well understood that mitigation, hazard mitigation and the investment in hazard mitigation is one way in which we can build a more resilient transportation network. So this is a report from the from earlier in 2019 that articulates that generally speaking, for every dollar invested in hazard mitigation, you have a return, right? It's an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure type of a mindset. So that's one of the lenses within which we're looking at how to use this data is how do we go after hazard mitigation grant funding to build a more resilient transportation infrastructure. So a couple things that are going on at the county in which this information and this work, this analysis will help inform. The county has embarked upon a grant-funded hazard mitigation plan update. It's the first multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan update. So some of the important analysis work that was done as part of this CAVA study will inform that local hazard mitigation plan update. Obviously, as I said, we can't do this alone. We can't build the resilient infrastructure without state, local, and federal grants. So this study and the components of this study are going to help strengthen future grant applications. It will help in many ways. One of the ways, we may have a disconnected concept for a grant project that we can build this information into to create and demonstrate the multiple benefits of that project. Things like stream crossings for fish habitat, right? We might find and seek a grant to do something to improve a bridge crossing, but that will also be reflected, and we'll be able to use this data to strengthen that application to provide multi-benefit definition, descriptions in those applications. The other thing we're actually doing right in this moment, we've taken, again, components of this analysis to inform an emergency road damage prioritization tool. So when we get experiences like we had in 2023, where we have dozens, if not almost over 100 storm damage sites, how do we go about as a county prioritizing what roads to repair in what order? And we're using a number of elements of this study to inform a model in which we can go in and objectively create a prioritization tool. It won't be the definition, it won't be the defining factor of what roads get repaired in what order, but it's a very valuable tool that is being developed to help inform those decisions. With that, I think we're done with our short presentation and happy to answer questions if there are any of the commission.
And Mr. Chair, I would just like to add one comment to the presentation. Luis Mendez, your Director of Planning, Programming, and Transportation Services. This, as was mentioned before, the way we can do a lot of this work is through grants, and so this will certainly help to get further grants for some of this work. But even the planning work was thanks to a grant that we received, a sustainable planning grant from Caltrans, nearly $450,000 from Caltrans, matched by RTC funds, so $120,000 of RTC planning funds. So I just want to appreciate that partnership that we have with Caltrans and the county to be able to do this work.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation from both RTC staff and county staff and the consultants as well. Do I have any questions from the commissioners? I'll start on my left, or far left. I'll start with Commissioner Martinez.
Thank you. Thank you to the team for this incredible report. There's a lot in here, and as a new supervisor, I'm recognizing that this work is really more important than ever as it relates to the resilience of our community, in particular the district that I represent on behalf of the county. I do have one question for Director Reed regarding the emergency damage repair prioritization tool. And I understand that that'll help for emergency repairs, but is that a tool that can also be used for non-emergency repairs, kind of the ongoing maintenance and mitigation efforts of critical roads?
We certainly can look at applying the methodology in that way for sure, and we will be bringing that that tool to the board for discussion. So that's certainly something we can discuss in that forum.
Commissioner Rockin?
Is it fair to say that what this represents is a kind of, it's not totally objective, but our best attempt at an objective measure of what we should be prioritizing in terms of repairs to, ahead of time, and while these things are going on, as an alternative to sort of who has political juice to get their road fixed? I mean, is that really why? I mean, in effect, without something like this, that's what you've got. Who's got, the most calls into a supervisor, or, who's got the most political influence or something else? I mean, is it fair to think that this maybe is an alternative that's making a better attempt at judging what the public in this county needs overall?
Yes, Commissioner Rock, and I would say that's more or less accurate. We're looking to have a more data-driven, objective look at, all of the assets in an asset category, what their risk will be from all of the climate stressors, and what the consequences will be if there was damage to that location. Because, what we're doing now, what Dave and Steve Wiesner over at CDI are doing more of is, fix it when it breaks. And this is sort of looking ahead of what is maybe not even at risk this moment, but will be at risk in 20 years, 40 years, and will be of much bigger consequence to our transportation network. So being able to not just fix the thing that's broken in front of us, but also be able to get out ahead of it and do advanced planning in a more logical and data-driven way, yes.
And my second question is, can someone tell me in what way was, if at all, was the transit district need for, in terms of transportation issues, incorporated into this study, in the sense that, you know, a route that has a bus with 40 or 60 people on it obviously affects more people than if it's, you know, 3 people driving down a road to their house or something. So was there an attempt to sort of focus on bus routes as a issue in this whole process?
Yeah, there were several consequence metrics that were related to alternative transportation. So if a route had bike lanes, sidewalks, or the transit routes, that those, you know, often those were the more heavily traveled corridors, like SoCal, for example. So there was a lot of synergies between, you know, the number of vehicles per day, and it was often a transit route as well, but that was considered, yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Koenig.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just, in looking at the map of our county roads, I'm noticing that pretty much all of the 1, 2, 3, and 4, well, maybe mostly just 1, 2, 3 priority routes are in the mountains. I mean, that's not surprising. That's where we've seen the most washouts, certainly in the past storms. I'm also wondering, but I am surprised not to see something in the urban area. And I'm wondering if maybe that's a result of the methodology, which seems to have more factors related to mountain hazards. For example, we count both debris flow and landslides. Am I understanding correctly that as far as multiplying the risk, we basically multiply each one of those risk categories together in order to get the overall risk score? And so, and could you speak to the fact that maybe we have, I mean, we just have more risk factors in the mountains and that's resulting in higher priority there, but I mean, yeah, it just seems, I'm surprised not to see something in the urban area, not even like, and I can't tell, maybe SoCal's lighting up green through SoCal Village, but.
Actually, I can do it myself. Sorry, let's go back to that map. There we are. Quick answer is yes, there are more risk factors in the rural wooded areas where there are steep slopes, more risk of wildfire. There's also, you know, the evacuation routes was a very important consequence metric. We heard very clearly from folks across the community. It was very important for them to be able to evacuate safely from their homes during an emergency. And so a lot of these routes that are lighting up red do represent, you know, the SoCal San Jose Road that would be getting those folks in those more urbanized areas safely out if they needed to. So, you know, even though it's out there in the mountains, it will, you know, benefit those people. For the math part, I would ask Tim to speak a little bit more to that, but you can come up, thanks.
Yeah, and we did combine those hazards together. So some of those mountain roads are going to be exposed to more hazards. But the other thing I'd point out on the consequence side is just that we looked at detour length as a key metric, and so a lot of the, you know, detours in the urban areas are going to be very short because there's a lot of redundancy in the roadway network. But you know, those detours in some of those mountainous rural areas where they're really prone to hazards are very long, or even in some cases are no detours. So that was a big driver of the results as well.
And Commissioner Koenig, I would add as a final point that the red really represents the outliers that have very high risk, and that to not discount the ones that are orange and yellow as well, that still represents a high level of risk. So the red are very much the outliers. It's not just like the top 20%. It's the top 20% of scores, which could be way, way over here on the bell curve. So definitely would still count orange and yellow as higher risk locations as well. And there are many of those in the more urbanized areas.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I guess we'll have a firsthand experience of how much those detours are valid when we have Murray Street Bridge under construction this coming year. My experience, as far as even the construction we've had already, is that, you know, you can definitely have knock-on effects throughout all the detours available. There's not all that many, and so we might see some pretty high impacts if places like East Cliff along the coast go out of service. You know, obviously, multiple things are considered when we look at road projects, and this is one of multiple factors. and this is not to belittle the essential nature of some of these emergency evacuation routes. I get it, but nevertheless, I have some concerns that there's nothing in the coastal area really highlighted here for any kind of future prioritization or repair. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kalantari Johnson?
Great. Thank you so much for the report and the presentation. I'm here representing the Metro Transit District today, and I know that Metro staff's been in touch with your office, and so I'm kind of following up on Commissioner Rotkin's questions around what is the process, or what can be the process, to more explicitly include Metro facilities and Metro network in the assessment. And I don't know how often these reports are done. So the request has been made for Metro facilities and assets to be included in this assessment. Seems too late for this round. So what is the process to ensure that that can be included the next time around?
Yes, so we will be, OR3 actually will be hosting the data in perpetuity on their webpage, and we will be able to update data sets as as new data sets come out. So at this moment, I don't personally, as the project manager of this project, have a timeline for, a sunsetting of this where we would need to update. But we definitely be, very open to collaborating with Metro on that, and hopefully they find this data interesting and relevant as they do potential new route and route planning.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Several of the Metro facilities have been impacted by climate change, and that's, of course, impacted our ability to meet the community's needs with public transportation. So we look forward to working closely with you to add those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner DeSilva?
Thanks for the report. And apologies in advance for asking questions that may not be appropriate right now. But, in the rural areas in which I live, and I have many, many constituents in the Aptos Hills, we feel pretty neglected when it comes to our roads, our pavement conditions, our washouts, our areas that have not been repaired after a series of storms. We have, I have friends that come in from other places, other countries, and they're like, your roads are in such poor condition. I feel like I'm in a third world country. So it says next steps, county road network. I see some of the priorities here. How much of RTC's budget goes to these types of prioritized roads or prioritized areas?
Well, there's a portion of Measure D that does go to neighborhood networks, and so that money does flow through directly to the county. If you want to, sorry?
Yeah, I could elaborate a little bit. So the neighborhood category of Measure D is essentially passed through to all the jurisdictions, including the county. Unfortunately, the county has, I think, 600 lane miles, and there's never enough resources to address every single issue in any of our transportation systems, but especially in our more rural roadways. We also, every 2 years, have our Regional Transportation Improvement Program process, where we have a consolidated call for projects, where this commission decides how much of our discretionary regional funds get prioritized for this type of improvement, as well as every other need in the county for transportation. So that is actually coming up this year. So there would be an opportunity to prioritize and, fund additional, roads in addition to just the regular formula Measure D that comes to the county of Santa Cruz.
Can you just maybe estimate for me in general what the discretionary funds are that could come before this board?
Sure, we don't currently have the estimates yet, but they are the Regional State Transportation Improvement Program Exchange, or RSTPX. We get estimates from the state, and then we put together our call for projects based on these amounts. So it's the RSTPX, the State Transportation Improvement Program, or STIP funds, as well as the Local Partnership Program formula funds that we get as a benefit of being a self-help county, having our own tax measure for transportation purposes. So we don't yet have all of the amounts yet, and we will be bringing that information forward to the commission when it's available. We'll also be bringing performance metrics. We did this 2 years ago, for those of you who have been on the commission, to talk to the commission and see what the commission would like to prioritize, because every grant cycle typically has performance measures that project applications are judged upon. And so it's important to get the community's input and the commission's input on what we as a region want to prioritize for these funds. And that helps staff with giving the recommendation for which projects get awarded.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, thank you again for the presentation. I appreciate that we're using an assessment tool that looks at projects in the light of making sure that it's data-driven and with a lens of equity as well. I think the state, Caltrans, has moved this direction. The federal government has moved in this direction, although it might go back to the way it was. But I do appreciate that we're looking at it through the lens of equity. It's one of our priorities of the county as well. We have some more comments, additional comments from Commissioner Ginny Johnson.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Great report. Thank you for the information. So much of our roadway system are private roads. You've studied the all the publicly maintained roads, most of them. Has there any thought been given, especially with OR3, to provide a tool for private road associations to assess their own roads because they are on the hook for maintaining them, repairing them, et cetera?
We did have some representatives from private road maintaining advocacy groups at our stakeholder meetings, so we did get some great input from them on this, but I will turn it over to Dave to answer that question.
I think some of the geospatial data from this analysis can be applied to the private road network. There's 1,800 miles of private road network, and just for clarity from the director's comment, it's 600 road miles. It's more than 600 lane miles. I just want to make sure for those that understand the distinction between a road mile and a lane mile. It's 600 road miles, so it's more lane miles than that. But yeah, I think there are opportunities. I think for many of our private road community members, they acutely are aware of their risks. Supervisor Martinez and I were just out at a bridge failure in the San Lorenzo Valley yesterday. So it's an awareness, and I think it's a concern for residents that live on those private roads that have bridges that cross creeks and rivers, or large culverts that convey stormwater, like Harmon Gulch that we experienced in '23.
Much of my experience with road associations is you have a group of neighbors who get together to tax themselves, and often it's one or two lead neighbors trying to convince the rest that we need to invest. So it would seem to me that it would be worth your time to explore some kind of a simple measurement tool. This is a very complex data analysis that you've done here, which we really appreciate, and it's needed, especially for grant money, but some kind of a simpler tool which would allow road association leaders to talk to their neighbors in a way that resonates with them. Because often they just do it when it fails, as you said. So I'd encourage you to think about that. I think that would be really helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Rockin.
I wanted to give a more graphic and concrete example of what Shepard Terry Johnson was talking about for the transit district, and why it's important for us to see an update as soon as possible that would include the transit district issues here. For one example, it's not always just roadways. Our main operations facility is right next to the San Lorenzo River. It's been flooded in the past when we've had flood problems. And if you can imagine, if the thing gets flooded and we can't pull out 100 buses in the morning, there's a problem throughout this county in terms of transportation. So we understand that it didn't get included this time in the way the study got calculated, but it's important for us to make sure that at some point in the not too distant future, we do get added into this priority list in some way, because that's a real disaster for this community.
Yeah, so why don't I suggest something, and then what I can do is follow up with Metro staff. So what you're describing, right, is your physical infrastructure. Actually, our local hazard mitigation plan update process, which I mentioned at the front end, is kicked off. We'll make sure to reach out to Metro staff and include the physical infrastructure that you're describing, your facilities, in some of that local hazard mitigation plan process, to ensure that those locations are represented in that local hazard mitigation plan. In reality, that's probably the more appropriate place for the physical infrastructure versus your linear infrastructure of roads and stuff. So I think there is an opportunity, and I appreciate your comment for sure.
Thank you.
Sorry. One additional question did occur to me. Thank you for the opportunity, Chair. Questions for Director Christensen. The presentation did include those photos of Harkins and Gallagher Slough for the rail corridor, and I noticed those are highlighted orange on the map. Is the ZPERT study coming back to us in March, and the cost estimates? Is there any consideration of whatever anti-flooding measures in that portion of the line? I know we've talked about stuff along the boardwalk, but
Yes. So the area that Commissioner Koenig is referring to is a rural portion of the RTC-owned Santa Cruz Branch rail line that is just north of the city of Watsonville before it kind of enters La Selva area. This area is one of the most challenging portions of our Santa Cruz Branch rail line, just from an access perspective, and obviously climate hazard as well. Currently, our line is probably right now, it's probably underwater. We see it, underwater by a few inches after every storm. So obviously, we need to look at pretty significant changes in order to build a rail transit facility that can withstand the climate hazards that we're going to see in the future. So the zero emission passenger rail and trail project concept that we've developed in this specific area is an elevated viaduct structure that would raise the elevation of the alignment of the rail line and build some pretty major infrastructure through the sloughs. And this is going to be one of the more major improvements in terms of infrastructure for our line. Maybe not the most visually obvious because it's in such a rural area of the line, but we're working closely with all of the regulatory agencies involved. There are many, and we're looking at a pretty major improvement out at Harkins Slough. Big changes.
okay, great. So what I'm hearing is that would be included in cost estimates and other considerations that we consider in March.
Correct. And we also, because we saw this a long time ago, that we're having issues at some more obvious locations like the Manresa Bluffs, coastal erosion, and being underwater at Harkins Slough, that we've been proactive and applied for a previous round of a Caltrans planning grant to continue some more analysis and planning at these more vulnerable locations that were obvious to us. And so that we see that as, oh, I really don't like that picture, but some of the more obvious locations, like what you see on your screen, are going to be included in a pretty sizable grant funded effort, about a $1.4 million grant that we received from Caltrans to continue analysis of these climate hazard areas that are, there's 4 of them total. There's Pajaro River Bridge, which you already brought up. There's the Harkins Slough area as well. There's the Manresa Bluffs, and then there's also the Capitola Bluffs where the line goes close up to the coastline. So those are all included in the kind of next steps study that we'll be kicking off this year.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll take it to the public.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Matt Farrell. I'm here today speaking on the part of Friends of the Rail and Trail. We'd like to thank the team for all the work they've done on preparing this climate adaptability and vulnerability assessment. for our road network and for the branch line. We think the branch line is a critical transportation asset that needs this kind of analysis and science to help qualify for future funding for maintenance and repairs, and want to thank Sarah for all the work they've done to achieve additional funding to look at a couple of the challenging areas. But, you know, it's a question of not only challenges, but also vision and political will. You know, if a community wants something and they believe in its need, that's a long and important foundation of progress. And I would just remind folks that there was a huge and extended conversation in the community north of us, and we ended up with a slide instead of a bypass at Devil's Slide. I mean, a tunnel instead of a bypass at Devil's Slide. And that was because of its community's commitment to that vision. So thank you very much.
Seeing that there's no one else here in the public, is there anyone else online?
We have a couple of speakers. Brian Peoples?
Hi, this is Brian Peoples with Trail Now. This is a very good report and really gives a strategic direction for our community and the RTC. Actually, it should have been done a long time ago in our planning process. And truthfully, this is just another nail in any idea of a future passenger rail system, a new passenger rail system. You know, San Diego is relocating their existing rail inland. So the idea of us building a new rail system, this is just another nail in that coffin. A rail would violate the Coastal Act for beach access and sea level rising. You know, it's interesting is former Supervisor Ellen Prairie predicted this a decade ago, that our trail would be delayed because of the ongoing argument over, can we have a passenger rail? Well, this study helps drive the message that no, we won't. And it's very painful for our community. We're having a lot of loss by not opening the corridor in a timely, cost-effective, and eco-friendly manner, as Guy Preston recommended 3 years ago. And I just want to mention that, you know, my friend, Dr. Rob Quinn, who was on this board, quoted a year or two ago that the policy of this organization right now is rail at any cost. And the cost has already been incurred that we don't have this corridor open to Watsonville, where you're at today. If we had listened to God, we would have. So this report is a great report, and it just drives home the message that we need to use this coastal corridor for a valuable transportation resource, which is, let's move forward. Thank you.
Lonnie Faulkner? Lonnie? Lonnie? You're still on mute.
Thank you so much. There seems to be some technical difficulties when I press that button. Thank you, commissioners and staff, for your hard work on the CAVA. I was thankful to hear Director Christensen included the importance of equity and transportation in her earlier report, and relieved to hear that the 2025 State Rail Plan is available. Our state has been clear that passenger rail is a critical equity, meets critical equity and environmental needs. And I'd like to remind our commissioners that somewhere between 20 and 30% of our community members do not own a car and rely on public transit. Many of our community members get to work and to the various regional colleges, UCSC, San Jose State, and Cabrillo, by their only current option, which is Metro. I participated in a stakeholder groups with Reimagine Metro and encouraged people to use the bus to reduce greenhouse gases. And in my family, we've even taken long steps to reduce automobile use by reducing the number of cars in our household, car sharing and using the bus and biking wherever possible. However, our county lacks robust public transit when it should be a leader, and this significantly impacts our community members. Economically, for every dollar we invest in robust public transit results in a $4 to $5 return on investment, according to the Association of Public Transportation. My own son and young adults like him sit on buses for 4.5 to 5 hours a day to get from here to San Jose State for classes, struggling to find time to fit in work and address household life responsibilities. And it's been quite concerning. It looks like I'm running out of time, so I apologize. We should be a leader in safe, equitable, environmentally clean transportation. So in line with Commissioner Kalantari Johnson, we do need to focus on investing in ensuring Metro can access and be improved. We must also prioritize the addition of rail service as a critical component of robust public transportation. If we're going to reduce the number of cars on the roads, reduce traffic, reduce the 70% contribution to greenhouse gases, and dramatically improve our equitability in our county, we must prioritize these efforts. Thank you so much.
We don't have any other speakers online.
So we do have one more here on the chambers.
Good morning, Aurelio Gonzalez. Thank you for the report. That was a good report. And you know, our rural roads in the county have suffered for many years. And we know that FEMA hasn't come through with what they've promised to give us for the repairs for our roads. And due to the climate that exists now in Washington, it's going to be a little harder to get that money if our fearless leader decides to disband everything. And so we really have to look at how we're going to fund ourselves as a county and be self-help, right? And so I think we need to start really looking at how we're going to extend Measure D, because we are going to need the funding and we are going to need the resources. And so this measure that we passed as a county to sustain ourselves is really important, right? And then this study, as Mr. Peoples pointed out, that the Harkin Slough area is a very important area, and it's important to get people transported on and by rail services. And if we're going to invest money, let's invest it wisely, because if we're going to invest millions of dollars just for somebody to be able to walk on a trail and limit the use for the overall community to use this, it's a waste of money. So think about it in the bigger picture and who's actually going to be served by this. It's not just our community, it's going to be the region that's going to be served by this. And if we continue to go down this path of no rail service, it's just wasting money. The rail service has to proceed forward and has to move forward, and the community of Watsonville will benefit, and the county of Santa Cruz will benefit from this. And again, let's make sure that we safeguard what we have. And this study has shown out where our hazards are, right? Even downtown Watsonville is in the flood zone until the levee gets repaired. So let's just think about the community when we think about moving forward on projects. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board now to possibly entertain a motion to adopt the final report. Commissioner Schifrin?
I'd like to move the staff recommendation on this item.
We have a motion?
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Rockin.
I would like to say a word, though, really for the benefit of our new members. It's almost at every meeting we hear a member of the public who states that the ex-executive director recommended that the commission rail bank, which essentially means abandoning the rail line. And it's sort of like a lie that keeps getting repeated, starts to be believed. And I think every once in a while it's probably worth stating that it is a lie. The ex-executive director never in public stated that the commission should abandon the rail line. It was a big controversy, as members of the commission who were here will remember. There was a measure that essentially would have moved the commission in that direction. It was called the second Measure D, and it was roundly defeated by the public. There is a desire to move forward to see if passenger rail is feasible on the rail line. And that has been the commission policy, strongly supported since the second Measure D passed. And, members of the public can say whatever they want, but I think particularly for new members, it's important to sort of be clear that that assertion about our previous executive director, who I greatly admire, be clarified as something that he never publicly advocated for, and the commission never moved to act on. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Can we take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Keeley?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Schifrin?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSerpa?
Aye.
Commissioner Koenig?
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Kalantari Johnson?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Kitos Carter?
Aye.
Commissioner Rotkin?
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we have item 28, review items to be discussed in closed session. Can we have council elaborate?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. There are two items in closed session. We have a labor negotiations item and an item regarding a potential initiation of litigation. There may be a reportable action following the closed session.
With that, we'll move into closed session.
I have a comment on closed session.
Do we take it now or we come back, though? Oh.
No, it's item 28, right?
That is correct.
Do we have any public comment on item 28, closed session?
Brian
Yes,
Peoples?
Anybody
This is
online?
This is Brian Peoples from Trail Now. I am interested to hear more about the closed session. And I do want to just reiterate that on the April session of 2022, and you look it up on the records, Guy Preston presented a recommendation for rail banking. And then in November or September of 2021, Sarah actually presented the Capitola trestle conversion plan. So I just want to make sure that for the record, Guy Preston, it was April of 2022 that he recommended, gave a proposal for abandonment and recommended rail banking. So Commissioner Schiffman.
So is this closed session? This is not about closed session. Thank you. Is it any other callers?
There are no other callers.
Thank you. We'll now move into closed session. Are we online? Oh, okay. Is council ready for the report?
Cindy, we good? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. We're reporting out of closed session. The commission, by a unanimous vote, was 9-0 at the time of the vote, authorized staff along with the General Counsel's Office, to coordinate with the County of Santa Cruz and the City of Capitola to seek inspection warrants related to the litigation matters that were identified as part of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Now moving on to the last item, next meeting will be March 6th on 2025. It's
March 20th.
Yeah, the March 6th meeting has been canceled. The next RTC meeting is scheduled for Thursday, March 20th at 9 a.m. at the Watsonville City Council Chambers, located at 275 Main Street on the 4th Street in Watsonville. We will now adjourn this meeting.